Hidden Bunker FM.
Welcome to the first ever Mysteries, Conspiracies and Paranormal podcast. Thank you for tuning in if you're listening. Going to be discussing things on this channel which are definitely things that you're not going to see on the in the mainstream media or things like that, but it's not to say that they're any less real, and in certain circumstances probably more real than the bullshit that you hear on the news. So if you wonder what I mean by that, just go back to the Iraq war and weapons of mass destruction. Just because it's in the mainstream doesn't mean it's real. So just a little heads up on the channel, like, before I get into tonight's episode. This channel is going to be looking at, well, the title is quite self-explanatory: mysteries, things that have happened that people can't explain, you know, things that people might look at you like you got two heads for talking about. But if you got two heads, then please like and subscribe twice. You know, conspiracies happen all the time, you know, and just because some happen doesn't mean you should believe in all of them, but they do happen. There's a big one that's in the news at the moment surrounding that scumbag Jeffrey Epstein, and with the arrest of Ghislaine Maxwell and all the names that are rumoured to be involved. Conspiracies do happen, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So going to be discussing those things as well. And to be honest, the main thing that I'm interested in talking about is the paranormal, be that ufology, cryptozoology, ghosts, anything like that. It interests me. I've had experience myself which has sort of opened my eyes and opened my mind to not believe in everything, but being open to listening to anything and making my own mind up. And I suppose that's what all I ask of people is, to have an open mind. And if you're still listening at this point, I'm sure you have an open mind. So it's the first podcast I've done tonight, and it's an interesting one. I want to discuss Area 51, which could be the greatest conspiracy and cover-up of all time. Or it could just be a highly classified army base where they're making new planes, new weapons. You know, I'm open to either. Obviously one's a lot more interesting and exotic than the other one, but so Area 51, I'm sure anyone listening to this knows it is real. It is a genuine United States Air Force base. It's located within the Nevada Test and Training Range. It's officially named the Homey Airport, which I've never heard, or Green Lake, and it's named after the salt flat situated next to its airfield. Now, this base was rumoured to be real for a number of years. It's only fairly recently where it's pretty widely accepted that the base is there. Now, there's a few theories about what the base is, a lot of people say that I think it's the U-2 bomber was first test flown there. It's a highly secret base. Obviously you don't want to advertise to your adversaries what you may be building, what you may be testing. I understand that. I also understand the need for secrecy when it comes to things like that, because if you play poker, you don't show your opposition the hand you've got because they'll wipe the floor with you, you know, so I do understand that. But there are rumours that have persisted for over 60 years that they could be a reverse engineering alien aircraft there, perhaps in contact with alien civilizations there. All sorts of crazy things on the face of it, at least anyway. But that's not to say that just because it's crazy it ain't true. And the truth is, you'll listen to this and you'll probably have your own opinion one way or the other, and some bloke talking on the internet, it's not going to change your opinion on it. But I just want to put out the information for anybody who is unsure and maybe change their minds, who knows. So the rumours go back to the Roswell UFO incident that happened in 1947. So in mid-1947, according to the official story, a United States Army Air Force balloon crashed at a ranch near Roswell, Mexico. Following wide initial interest in the crashed flying disc, the US military stated that it was merely a conventional weather balloon. Interest subsequently waned until the late 1970s, when ufologists began promoting a variety of increasingly elaborate conspiracy theories. This is all according to Wikipedia, claiming that one or more alien spacecraft had crash landed and that the extraterrestrial occupants had been recovered by the military, which were then engaged in a cover-up. And that's the official story. Years later, they admitted there was a cover-up, but only the weather balloon that crashed was a different weather balloon to the one that they had said had crashed, and it was Project Mogul, some real dead fancy weather balloon that I believe was designed to go real high up into the atmosphere or stratosphere and basically listen out for nuclear testing by the Russians. Now, to me, if a weather balloon crashes, from a distance you would probably look at it and say, what the fuck is that? And your first instinct would be to believe it was something from another world. So you can see why there was excitement, something that we don't know had crashed. You know, if it was this weather balloon, it was a highly confidential weather balloon, so it was something we didn't know, so it would seem exotic until you got close and realised it was bits of wood, bits of man-made material that would look like somebody just come and fly tips on your property on a mass scale. If that was my ranch, I would go from wow, something's crash landed here, to get out close to say some scumbags fly tips on me ranch. That would be my instinct. Now, the rancher himself was the one that reported it. See if I can find his name. Brazel. Bloke called Brazel had found it, that was his surname. William Brazel, who was working on the ranch. He noticed clusters of debris approximately 30 miles north of Roswell, New Mexico. He reported it to the nearby Roswell Army Airfield, to which they sent some military personnel to come up and take a look at it. Now, whether you are read into the project or not, as an army person, you've obviously got a level-headed mind, otherwise they wouldn't trust you with a gun, you know. When Jesse Marcel, who was the Major Jesse Marcel, who's a soldier, turned up, he turned up and said it's a flying saucer, which made the newspapers the following day. I find it very difficult to believe that a major as well would automatically jump to the most out there crazy theory as to what this is, unless it was something that was out there and crazy. You would think a high ranking soldier would try and find the most logical and reasonable explanation for what it is. Now, the press release was then later retracted and they changed it to a weather balloon has crashed. And then there was another picture of Major Jesse Marcel holding up this damaged weather balloon, and that was case closed for a long time until the 70s. Now, the reason it come back to the international attention, not only national but international attention, was between 1978 and the early 90s. UFO researchers Stanton Friedman, William Moore and Carl Flock, and a team of Kevin D. Randall and Donald R. Schmidt interviewed several hundred people who claimed to have had a connection with the events of Roswell in 1947. Hundreds of documents were obtained via Freedom of Information Act requests. Their conclusions were that at least one alien spacecraft crashed near Roswell. Alien bodies had been recovered, and a government cover-up of the incident had taken place. Now, as I said at the start, this could very well be the greatest conspiracy of all time, or the greatest cock-up of all time, and it really was just a weather balloon. So, over the years, books, articles and television specials brought the 1947 incident significant notoriety. So let's go to Stanton Friedman, because he was the one that really did bring it back to media attention. In 1978, nuclear physicist and author Stanton Friedman interviewed Jesse Marcel, who former major, Jesse Marcel, who was the one who was involved in the looking at the discovery and the initial press conference that it was a flying saucer. That's when he was told by Major Jesse Marcel that it is perhaps the most famous UFO case of all time. Now at that stage you'd have to say he's probably getting on in years and perhaps doesn't want to take it to the grave with him. And that's when it all blew up again, and Area 51 since then has never been out of the news, really. Depends where you're looking, but there's always something about Area 51. And last year there was the Raid Area 51 event which they had, which they were never going to raid Area 51, because if they got anywhere near getting into that base they'd have been shot to bits. Whether they're hiding aliens in there, alien spacecraft, or just something very top secret, they would have been well within their legal rights to put two in the back of your head. So that really did spark it off again, and it's something that growing up I'd heard of. I was intrigued by it. It excited me, I can't lie. I grew up watching the X-Files, loved the X-Files. I'm not naive enough to think that was a documentary or anything, but it did make me excited about the paranormal and the supernatural. You know, it really did. So much more interesting than real life with our crooked politicians and things like that. Give you something to actually enjoy thinking about. So I've always been open to it, but I couldn't say I was a believer. It was a good story, an intriguing story, an interesting story, one that you kind of hope is real. But that changed for me when I was either 20 or 21 years old. I think I was 21 at the time when I saw something myself that made me realise there are things out there that we don't know about. Now I'm not saying it's little green men, I'm just saying there's things that science can't explain yet, and I do find some scientific explanations, or some explanations like with the debris in Roswell, I find them more far-fetched than the far-fetched things that I'm talking about. So I'd driven about 300 or so miles, which since I passed my test I've done a lot of miles, and it doesn't bother me. I was driving at night, I prefer driving at night, and I saw a light which I assumed to be a helicopter come over the motorway, hover across the motorway, and it was a bright light, and I was looking at it, trying to work out what it was. That was all. I assumed it was a helicopter, but trying to see, you know, was it air ambulance, police, army, whatever. And this light stopped on the other side of the motorway and then shot off in the direction it come, and it was gone within a second. And I knew then I'd seen something that couldn't be explained, so that really did pique my interest in stories like this, because I think it's always safer to laugh at UFO stories or ghost stories or Bigfoot stories or anything like that until you see something for yourself. And then if you laugh at it, you're only laughing at yourself. I've seen another couple of things I can't explain that happened within the space of a week, probably about 10 years on from that. One of which was witnessed by my wife as well. So I know I'm mad, but I'm not that mad. I wasn't the only person that saw it. So that's why I wanted to start this podcast. I want to get to the bottom of it. I want to have conversations with people. I want to try and find out what's out there. And it's no good people saying there's no proof of it, because there's no proof that it's not what I saw either. And evidence works both ways in my mind. So going back to Area 51 anyway, there was a guy that I saw. I knew the name anyway, but I saw him appear on the Joe Rogan podcast. Guy called Bob Lazar. Now, he claims to have been hired in the late 1980s to reverse engineer extraterrestrial technology. A place he described as a secret site called S4. Apparently S4 is located several kilometers south of the US Air Force facility known as Area 51. Now, he worked there for a while. They hired him because he's a very intelligent engineer, hence how he got the job. Now, watching the podcast, again, when somebody says something, you either believe them or you don't, or there's a third option, and that is they have been fed misinformation to perpetuate the story, exacerbate the story, make it more exotic than it is. All I can say from watching the podcast, I believed that this guy believed what he was saying. Now, it's pointless me just saying I believe him, so it must be true. I would recommend you go and search his interview with Joe Rogan. Again, Bob Lazar is his name. I believe that he believed what he was saying, which narrows it down to two. It's misinformation that has been given to him so he can perpetuate the story, or what he says was real. Now, he said he was there to reverse engineer extraterrestrial spaceships. They were doing test flights out of the base. All sorts of crazy shit. I believe he also said in there that he was walking down the hallway, he glanced to his right and through a door, saw something that could have been an extraterrestrial being, but caught a glimpse of it. So it may not have been. Tricks of the mind, tricks of the eyes, they happen, But he was then told, face forward, keep walking, under no certain circumstances you do what we say, eyes forward, walk forward. Now he then started, foolishly probably, but I think he was a bloke in his 20s at the time, he started bringing friends up to the surrounding areas of the base to watch these aircrafts take flight, do their test flights and everything, and do some very unusual manoeuvres. And I think he said it was the third or fourth time he went, he was discovered by the Air Force Base. And then after that they allegedly turned his life upside down. There was no record of him working at the Air Force Base, although it was later found out that he was in phone directories which they'd obviously forgot to get rid of. They were hassling him, friends, stopping friends of his from getting jobs. They basically made his life a living hell. He spoke about technology that was seen there that in this day and age might not seem far-fetched, but when you're talking over 30 years ago, it's quite incredible to think of. He seemed genuine to me, and you have to question, what would he get from making it up? That's the thing I look at, is what's the positive of lying? Again, only taking him at face value from what I saw on the podcast, he seemed a very shy, quiet guy who doesn't want the spotlight, and it seems like he's had the spotlight forced upon him for the last 30 years. Lost his wife, seemed a bit of a broken man. I don't see how he gained anything from making up a story like this. Maybe he was just a pawn in the greater conspiracy of making people believe there are aliens when there are not. Now that's a possibility to me. I've never seen little green men or big grey men or whatever they are. A large part of me hopes that I never do, but there is a part of me that maybe I do want to see, so I can judge for myself. Are there aliens out there? 100% there are. When you look up at the night sky, and that is just a fraction of our galaxy, and our galaxy is a mere fraction of the universe. Do you really think that we are the only intelligent beings out there? If that is the case, then I think it's a pretty sad indictment on the universe, because we have a pretty flawed species. I know there are scientists who believe that if we can't do interstellar travel, then they can't do interstellar travel. I think that's naive. I think that's very naive. 65 million years ago, dinosaurs ran this planet. can you imagine if 65 million years ago there was a planet just like ours with an intelligent life form on there, and they didn't have a cataclysmic event like an asteroid hitting their planet? And can you imagine if they were that more advanced than us? I think it was either Einstein or Stephen Hawking. I'm not great on physicists, but I'm sure it's one of those two that spoke about black holes and wormholes, and how the theory is, instead of you travelling, you bend the universe. So instead of travelling from point A to point B in a straight line, you go through point C and you're there in no time at all. Sounds crazy, but imagine 100 years ago showing people your iPhone or your smartphone. People would say that's crazy, and that's in 100 years. Look how far our technology has come on since the 1920s. I mean, I can watch films on my phone now. You know, that's mental when you look at what we had in the 1920s. So, is there a chance we could be being visited by extraterrestrials? Yeah, definitely there's a chance. I don't know how likely it is, but there's definitely a chance. Are there UFOs out there, or UAPs as they're calling them now, which is unidentified aerial phenomena? Yes, there is, of course there is. There's thousands of sightings every year, so a lot of which are debunked, you know, I will say that, but I think it's between 5 and 15% every year that they can't debunk them. That is a lot. I myself have seen 3 that I have no idea, and I'm not an idiot, and I'm somebody who likes to learn. And when I was going to say on all 3 occasions, 2 of them happened in the same weekend with the same thing. It was 5 lights into 1 light to 4 lights to 3 lights, just sort of doing all this weird shit in the sky. Both times I tried to find out what it was. I tried to find the logical explanation, and what I found was there was no logical explanation for it. So there's definitely something out there. What is the question? And that is what these series of podcasts are going to be looking into. Not just ufology, cryptozoology, ghosts. I mean, there's that many ghost sightings a year. Again, can you discount all of them? You know, things that we just don't have answers for, but also the cover-ups involved in them, and not only that, cover-ups involved in other things as well. I basically want to talk about all the things that probably YouTube and Spotify and wherever else I post this probably don't want me to talk about, but oh well. So anyway, if you've enjoyed this one, then please leave a like, please share. If you're on YouTube, then please subscribe to the channel. This will be going out on Spotify as well, and a few other places, but yeah, please subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And thank you for listening. Sleep tight. Until next time, I'll speak to you later.